If you didn't know, I made a huge video where I attempt to 100% Super Mario 3D World with as few jumps as possible. I'd recommend watching that video before you watch this one to have a better understanding of the Super Mario 3D World jump list scene. Okay, so for those who have watched the video, as you might expect, a fair amount of discoveries were made that were either found after the video's release or during a phase in the video's production where it would have been too late to change anything. So, in this video, I'll simply give any updates to my large jump list video. These updates range from somewhat simple discoveries that I'm surprised were missed in the first place, to mind-boggling discoveries that eliminate all logic and reasoning, to crazy unproven theories that are so out there that they just might work. Let's jump right in. No. Let's wall climb, float, bonk after throwing baseballs, throw the boomerang in midair, bounce off of Captain Toad, and dive right into it. Well, before we get to the levels where jumps are saved, let's start with levels where jumps are actually added. You see, in my video, I made some mistakes when adding up the jumps. Surprising, right? The first mistake I made was with 5-2. If you watched my video, you'd know that it takes one jump to collect the second green star, and an additional 5 jumps to beat the level as every character. So that's 6 jumps added to the counter, right? Yeah, but for whatever reason, I added only 5 jumps to the counter instead of 6. And trust me, I quintuple checked the counter when making the video, so I don't know how I missed this. So we have to add 1 extra jump here since I miscounted. When I talked about 10-3, I told y'all how the level is possible with Peach, but I forgot to talk about any of the other characters. This wouldn't have been a big deal if it were possible to be 10-3 jumpless as all the other characters, but as of now, it's not proven. You see, 10-3 has a unique ending setup. There technically isn't an inescapable gap, but instead poison that is incredibly high. It seems like only Peach's floaty physics allow you to cling onto the wall and bounce off of Captain Toad. So, this means that if we can't prove in this video that 10-3 is possible to be as the rest of the characters, we'll have to add up to 4 jumps on the counter. Let's start with Rosalina. One idea that could work is to twirl off the edge, bounce off of Captain Toad, and reach the flag from there. But before we can do that, we have to first prove that you can even reach the ending of this level jumpless, itemless, and while wearing a light box. After riding the raft, you can climb all the way up here, switch to the Tanuki suit, and float to this set of question mark blocks. Then, I switch back to the cat suit and take damage so I can be itemless. Then, I twirl off the edge and precisely dive to obtain the light box needed to progress to the end of the level. And finally, "10-3 is properly proven to be possible jumpless as Rosalina. But what about Mario, Luigi, and Toad? Well, I tried replicating clinging onto the wall as Mario, Luigi, and Toad, and I could not do it a single time. It might be possible, but it's not proven, so for now it's just a theory. So that means we have to add 3 jumps to the counter. Starting off, we have a relatively simple discovery that was found. In 2-2, when you try to get the stamp, you'll simply just fall to the ground without being able to do anything. Also, there isn't a baseball or anything that we can use to get the stamp with a touchscreen. So we had no choice but to jump once to get this stamp. Emphasis on the word had. It turns out that there is one thing we can do while falling. That's right, the boomerang comes in clutch yet again. That's 1 jump saved in this level. Again, I don't know how we missed this, but we can get the stamp in 7-1 without jumping as Rosalina. I tested this before but failed, but that's because I was spinning and then diving. If you simply spin like this, you'll touch the stamp at the apex of your spin. That's one jump saved. We really underestimated the power of itemless Rosalina in this jumpless challenge. Using her spin, you can dive up on this part of the train without jumping, and then you just simply switch to the catsuit and climb up on top. That's one jump saved in 8-train. In my previous jumpless video, I said that the first green star in 9-2 was impossible to collect because it was just too high in the air. But is that true? Well, using Rosalina's mid-air spin and this, whatever this enemy is called, I'm not googling anything, you can barely get enough height to collect the first green star. That's one jump saved. Next, we have 3-2. I previously stated that you need to jump once to hit the top of the flagpole. Using the old strategy, I reached the very bottom of the flag and couldn't quite climb to the top. However, if you instead take a detour to the left as Peach, you can float over to the left and reach this elevated fence. After that, reaching the top is simple. You climb onto this completely normal looking block of grass, that's, convenient for us in this challenge, and float to the top of the flag from there. That's one jump saved. Now, we have one of the most important new proven discoveries in this video so far. The discovery is relatively simple too, but hard to pull off. Before, you had to jump once at the very end of 6-4, not because of an inescapable gap, but because the flagpole was just too far away from any ledge you can climb off of, or so we thought. Instead of slowly inching your way toward the edge of the ledge to climb off it, it's better to run full speed and turn at the right time, as you get slightly more distance that way. So why is this the most important discovery? Well, in any percent, you're forced to play either this level or 6-3, which requires more jumps to beat than 6-4. This means that this discovery saves one jump in any percent, as well as 100%. In my previous video, I said that you have to jump once as Mario, once as Luigi, and once as Toad for the ending of 9-9. I said this because even if you climb the walls, there's no way to scratch stall or dive your way to the flagpole or the stairs. You can't even bounce off these fairies. But what if you float your way to the flag? Back here, in the middle of these declining tracks, you can run off the moving platform with the Tanuki and float all the way over to these stairs. From there, you just switch to the catsuit and slowly climb your way up to hit the flagpole. That's 3 jumps saved from this level. I put this discovery in this category of difficulty mainly because of how obnoxious this level is, and if you fail it, you have to restart and spend like 2 minutes riding the platforms and swimming underwater. Nobody wants to do that. The trick itself isn't too hard though. It's time to talk about another place where the boomerang is useful. But before that, let's do a quick summary of the jumpless strategies for 10-box as stated in my previous jumpless video. 10-box has 10 rooms with 1 green star in each room. There isn't anything to say about the first room, but in the second one, we need to grab these snowballs. So after collecting the second green star, you use the touchscreen to transfer 2 snowballs, the most we can have, to the third room. We keep repeating this process up until the 7th room, where we use the 2 snowballs to defeat the 2 out of reach purple enemies whose actual names I won't bother to Google. Since we ran out of snowballs to defeat the Magic Koopas, we jumped once to defeat them and collect the 8th green star. We also jumped once to collect the 10th green star. So that's 2 jumps total. With the boomerang suit, we can save one of those jumps. Instead of using both of our snowballs to defeat both of the unreachable enemies, we can instead throw the boomerang as we fall to defeat one of the elevated enemies. This way, we still have 1 snowball to use. In the 8th room, there are 3 unreachable Magic Koopas. There's no way we can defeat all 3 of them and collect a star with just the boomerang and 1 snowball. Instead, we jump once to save the snowball for the 10th room. Out of the 3 Hammer Bros in this 10th room, only 1 of them is unreachable. The other 2 will eventually fall onto the blue ground where we can defeat them. So we use the boomerang while falling to defeat the unreachable enemy, defeat the other two normally, and then use our snowball to collect the 10th green star. So, after all that, that's one jump saved in 10-box. Let's quickly dive into a couple of unproven theories. I introduce you gamers to a little known fact about the cannon box. You see, if you wear a cannon box, when you exit a warp pipe, you can bounce off the cannon that you shot to gain control in the air without having to land on the ground. Theoretically, you can do this in both 2-tank and 3-train to land on the ledges and avoid landing in the inescapable gap, thus defeating the dreaded castle setup for once. There is one huge problem though. In 2-tank and 3-train, the only two castle levels that have a cannon box in them, a warp pipe doesn't lead you to the ending. A warp box does instead. At first glance, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but a warp pipe is taller than a warp box. Thus, when you exit a warp pipe, you're higher in the air than you are when exiting a warp box. Being able to bounce off the cannon when exiting the warp pipe is proven, unlike with the warp box. Maybe it's possible, but as of now, it hasn't been proven yet. If it is proven though, oh boy, literally 10 jumps could be saved. This is because you need to play each level 5 times as the unique characters to 100% the game in single player, and this trick could potentially be done in 2 separate levels. Okay, there's just one more thing regarding the cannon box that could cause at least one jump to be saved. Using the touchscreen and Peach's float, it might be possible to infinitely bounce off the cannons without jumping. During Peach's float, she faces down while wearing a cannon box. So, if you shoot a cannon while floating, you can bounce off of it. Using this mechanic might make it possible to skip the second jump in this section of 2-tank. Theoretically, you could cannon bounce infinitely to stall in the air from the ledge all the way to the next tank. Of course, that's far easier said than done. As of now, those are all just theories and are unfortunately impossible to execute. It's what I would say if that were true, but it's not! Yeah! This is ridiculously hard to pull off, but it's definitely possible. And don't worry about the first green star. You could always just grab the green star normally as another character, as you need to play this level as each character, and this trick only seems to be possible with Peach's float. So that is one jump saved in 2-tank using the cannon box. Previously in 4-2, you got to jump twice in the same linear section with inescapable gaps. However, as you can see here, we have a piranha creeper to stall in the air, as well as a small gap here where you could fit in a wall climb. So, can you get past this section in only one jump? Well, here, you buffer a spin jump and float to dive onto the piranha creeper. From there, you have just a few seconds to switch to the catsuit. From there, you cling onto the wall and climb out of the inescapable gap. But wait, we don't just save one jump here. The same thing can be done with Rosalina. As you can see, this trick is possible with those two characters because of Peach's float and Rosa's midair spin. It's not like we can use a catsuit to scratch stall in the air and dive onto the piranha that way. When you dive onto enemies with a catsuit, you'll just go right through them. So the only way this can be possible as the other 3 characters is if you use a Tanuki suit. But will floating with the Tanuki suit get enough distance? So, that's 3 jumps saved. One with Peach, Rosalina, and one with Luigi. The strategy used in the old video in 9-4 involved spinning as Rosalina and diving onto the donut blocks. After that, I jumped twice to get on the top set of blocks. You need to get on these blocks to get the 3rd green star. At the time, it was only theoretically possible to spin dive combo your way to the top, but it wasn't proven until 3 days before the jumpless video premiere. Check this out. That's 2 jumps saved in 9-4. Next, we have arguably the hardest new proven discovery in the jumpless scene. That discovery is across one set of 2 levels, 6-3 and its counterpart 10-5. Let's look at 6-3 first. Before, I said that it takes 3 jumps to beat this level as each character, the first jump being to get in the pipe at the beginning. The second jump was used to simply get on the second floor. The third jump was used to ground pound both the P-switch and the Goomba at the same time to stall in the air while the staircase dropped down. The jump that we saved is the third one. Here's how it was done. Step 1. You climb off this ledge to cling onto this wall and hit the invisible block. Step 2. You lure the Goomba into this spot and stun it with the touchscreen. Step 3. While keeping the enemy in the same spot, you have to climb off this ledge again to land on the block. Step 4. You bounce off the Goomba to barely get enough distance to hit the P-switch. Step 5. Yes, there's more. You have to repeat steps 2 through 4 to get onto the staircase. And boom, that's another jump saved. 10-5's level setup in this section is similar to 6-3's, but with some notable differences. Firstly, the block is already revealed, so we don't have to worry about activating it. Secondly, the block is mounted on a different wall that's slightly further away, making the jump to the staircase a bit harder. Thirdly, we have this rotating wall in the way, so now we have to somehow time our bounce on the enemy, which is way harder to manipulate due to the wall. Finally, instead of the P-switch, we just hit this gong with the touchscreen to spawn the staircase. That means we only have to do this enemy bounce trick once. The key differences make this trick harder overall, but not impossible. That's 1 jump saved from 10-5. But remember, you need to beat each level as all 5 unique characters to 100% the game. So is this trick possible for all 5 characters? Well, we aren't sure. As you saw previously, Peach's float is very crucial to skipping the 2 jumps across these levels. The thing that is proven is that you can at least get onto the block in both levels as every character. To do it as the floatless 4, what you do is lure the enemy to this area, walk off the ledge, and climb off of it to bounce on the enemy and cling into the wall. When on the wall, with precise climbing, you can reveal the invisible block for 6-3. For 10-5, it's as simple as diving onto a block. The part that we're unsure about is whether or not you can make it far enough without a float. If the jumps are possible to skip as every character across both levels, then 8 jumps would theoretically be saved. In my video, I said that to beat Champions Road without jumping, you needed to play as Peach. I also said that you needed to jump 4 times as Mario, 4 times as Luigi, 4 times as Toad, and twice as Rosalina. When I played Champions Road, I did all of my testing with Toad, since if something is possible with Toad, then it's possible with every character. This is because Toad has by far the heaviest gravity. Everything you can do as Toad can be done as any other character in this challenge. The first 2 times I had to jump as Toad were in this part of the beat block sections. Since there are 2 blocks lined up in a row like this, you can't be fast enough to make the cycle as any other character but Peach, since only she has the float to stall in between cycles. Huh? What's this? I'm sorry, what? Okay, I can work with this. So, this strategy here proves that this beat block section of the level can barely be done jumpless as Mario. So, all I have to do is to do the same thing with Toad. However, that's way easier said than done. Toad falls almost as fast as Mario in Super Mario Land. So, how in the world am I supposed to stall in the air long enough? Well, after dozens of failed attempts, I did this. And just like that, that is 2 jump save for Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Rosalina for 8 jump save total so far. The other 2 times I said you needed to jump were at 2 specific instances where you couldn't make the dash panel gap. However, that was just a bunch of baloney. Somehow, I didn't think of just using the invincibility cat bill to claw swipe midair and dive to the panels rather than just floating with a Tanuki suit. Do you know what this means? Well, let me tell you. First off, it means that we save 14 jumps total from this level. Secondly, you can 100% Champions Road, the hardest level in the game, as every single character without jumping. That's insane. So, that's every new discovery in theory. Before I share the final results, I'd like to share some fun statistics of the entire 100% challenge now that we're more up to date on the jumpless scene. Let's start with the levels. First, let's categorize the levels into the type of level it is and look at stats there. Out of all 6 Captain Toad levels, wait, I don't really need to explain this one. Out of the 6 Mystery House levels, a grand total of 2 of them were possible, or about 33.33%. You see, every single Mystery House except one of them, 4-Mystery House, has at least one room with an inescapable gap. And even though 6-Mystery House has a ton of inescapable gaps, every single room can be cheesed heavily with the touchscreen mechanic. So yeah, 2 levels. Out of the 16 enemy blockades, which are levels that have A, B, or C in the level name, a total of 12 of them were possible to beat without jumping. Why not all of them? Well, even though these types of levels are just defeating an enemy, 4 of these levels happen to have a flagpole.
Bruh.
Those levels are 3-B, 6-C, 8-A, and 8-B. Want to know the beautiful thing these 4 levels have in common? They have the glorious, majestic, castle ending setup. That's right, normal levels with boss fights aren't the only types of levels that house this repetitive nightmare. Let's see what levels take the most amount of jumps to 100% complete. Let's start with 3rd place. This shiny bronze medal that I got from Google Images goes to 8-Castle. Not really a surprise there. Without Peach's float or Rose's spin, you need to jump 6 times each to beat the level. And even with one of those things, you'd still need to jump twice as Peach and 3 times as Rosalina. On top of that, you need to jump once to collect the stamp for a grand total of 24 jumps to 100% this level. The runner-up is 8-Box. You need to jump 5 times each to beat this level for a total of 25 jumps. And now, the level that takes the most amount of jumps to 100% by a massive landslide is 12-Box. Yeah, this level on its own takes 58 jumps to 100%. 58! That's about... Oh wait, I can't say what percentage of total jumps this one level covers because that would spoil the grand total at the end. Anyways, it's not that much of a shock that these two mystery houses require a bunch of jumps, since we're putting in a bunch of rooms that put us in inescapable gaps. Out of the 116 levels in Super Mario 3D World, a total of 76 of them are possible to beat without jumping. That's about a 65.52% success rate. Out of the 116 levels total, 54 of them are possible to completely 100% without jumping. This means all 5 characters can beat these levels jumpless as well. That's about a 46.55% rate. Next, let's get into the individual worlds. The world with the worst success rate is World 8, with only a quarter of its levels being possible to beat jumpless. This is because most of its levels either have the obnoxious castle setup or numerous other inescapable gaps. The world with the best success rate is a tie between Worlds 7 and 11. About 83.33% of those worlds' levels are possible to beat without jumping. To break the tie, however, I decided to add another variable. Out of the levels that were possible to beat jumpless in these worlds, how many were possible to 100% as well? In World 7, a total of 9 out of the 12 levels were possible to fully 100% complete without jumping. In World 11, a total of 8 out of the 12 levels were possible to 100% jumpless. This makes World 7 the true champion of this challenge. For the full data regarding the 12 worlds, you can pause the video here to view this table. Okay, it's time for one final statistic before the big reveal. It's time for the character stats. The worst character for the jumpless challenge is Toad, as he can clear 62 out of the 110 levels without jumping, which is about 56.36%. Why am I suddenly saying 110 instead of 116? Well, the 6 Captain Toad levels can't really be played as anyone other than Captain Toad. And no, I'm not counting Blue Toad as Captain Toad here. They are two separate characters. Tied for the third best characters are Mario and Luigi. They can beat 63 levels total, or 57.27% of the levels without jumping. The only level that the brothers beat that Toad couldn't beat was 9-8. At the end of the level, you throw a snowball at the wall so that you can bonk on the platform that the flag is on. However, Toad's heavy gravity prevented him from getting the height he needed to land on that ledge. The second best character is Rosalina. She can beat 67 levels without jumping, which is about 60.91% of the levels total. The levels that she can clear but not Mario or Luigi are 4-box, 7-1, 10-3, and 11-4, all because of her spin. Unsurprisingly, the best character for this jumpless challenge is Peach. The levels that only Peach can clear without jumping are 6-4, 9-5, and 10-5. For the first 2 levels mentioned, this is because the ending setup has a flagpole so far away from ledges that a simple spin and die from Rosa won't be enough. You'd need a full Peach float. For 10-5, yeah, good luck doing that as any other character. Peach can clear a grand total of 70 out of the 110 levels, or 63.64%. It's kind of crazy that the best and worst characters for this challenge only have an 8 level difference. As you all know, in my previous jumpless video, I came to the conclusion that the amount of jumps required to 100% Super Mario 3D World is 421. Adding the jumps that came from the Inaccuracies first, the number is now up to 425. Adding the new proven discoveries from this video, the final number is currently down to, drum roll please. Y'all don't want a drum roll? Okay, that's fine. 389. Of course, this number can and will go even lower, especially when you add the unproven theories. If you want to contribute to getting this number lower, join the low percent Discord server. I do have one final surprise in store when it comes to the future of minimum jumps. But oh well, I guess you'll have to subscribe and wait to see what that is in a future video because I want this video to be exactly 30 minutes long and I'm running out of time. Get out.